So I was taking a look at this article by CNN. Mormon Church accused of stockpiling billions, avoiding taxes. Okay, let's give this article a read and see what it has to say. The title of it is Mormon Church accused of stockpiling billions, avoiding taxes. It's by CNN. It says, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, commonly referred to as the Mormon Church, responded Tuesday to a recently filed whistleblower complaint that accuses the church of stockpiling $100 billion in accounts intended for charitable works, misleading members, and avoiding taxes. That is a big deal. So basically, the Mormon Church claimed they were using this money for charitable work and filing that on their taxes. And instead of using it for that, they were putting it in bank accounts to gain interest, basically, and things like that. That is serious. Oh my God, they could be in so much trouble with the IRS over that. A whistleblower alleges that billions of dollars collected in tithes, mandatory donations by members, which is 10% of your yearly income, was invested in an investment arm of the church, Ensign Peak Advisors, or EPA is what it goes by, but in 22 years has not been distributed to charitable causes in accordance with IRS rules, according to the complaint filed with the IRS. Oh shit, they are in trouble. Claims being currently circulated are based on a narrow perspective and limited information, the LDS Church told CNN in a statement. The church complies with all applicable law governing our donations, investments, taxes, and reserves. We continue to welcome the opportunity to work with officials to address questions they may have. So there's an investigation is basically what this is saying. We continue to welcome the opportunity to work with officials in an investigation, presumably, to address questions they may have. The complaint was first reported by the Washington Post. The whistleblower, David Nielsen, is a Mormon who worked for the church until September. His brother, Lars Nielsen, told CNN. David Nielsen is a former senior portfolio manager at Ensign Peak Advisors, his brother said. Again, remember, Ensign Peak Advisors, EPA, is a wing of the Mormon Church that handles charitable works. The complaint was prepared by the brothers and filed with the IRS in mid-November, according to Lars Nielsen. Under IRS rules, whistleblowers can be awarded up to 30% of any taxes and penalties collected. Wow! That dude's going to be rich. Holy hell. We began this effort before we knew the IRS whistleblower program existed, and he asked me to work with him, Lars Nielsen said Wednesday. David Nielsen wants the IRS to strip the Mormon Church of its tax-exempt status, according to the complaint. An IRS spokesman declined to comment, citing federal law prohibiting the agency from discussing any specific case. Ensign Peak Advisors declined to comment. That's fascinating. This actually happened like a couple of weeks ago, and I had heard some rumblings of it, but for some reason it didn't really connect in my mind, like how significant and serious this was. So I should have covered it on the last podcast, honestly. But yeah, that's extremely fascinating. Sam Brunson, a professor of nonprofit tax law at Chicago's Loyola University, who is a member of the LDS Church, said under Ensign's articles of incorporation, it's both a supporting organization, which means it has to make charitable donations commensurate in scope to its funds, and an integrated auxiliary, which means it might not have to. An integrated auxiliary organization can legally sidestep paying taxes by being a nonprofit. My guess is that the IRS will probably do nothing, and even if it does, chances are very small we'll find out about it, he said. Yeah. That's a disappointing part about it, isn't it? Honestly, I feel like religions get tax-exempt status by default, right? They don't have to pay taxes just by the fact that they're a religion. And that's actually the reason why Scientology fought so hard for the status of religion, was because L. Ron Hubbard hadn't paid taxes basically his entire adult life for Scientology. He thought it was government theft and all this other stuff, and so he refused to pay taxes. Eventually, when Hubbard died in 1986, Scientology was basically being sued by the IRS, and everybody was going to be put in jail and their assets seized and everything if they didn't just pay the taxes that they owed, like way more money than they were even worth. So there was this big battle between Scientology and the IRS. And eventually, Scientology did some less than reputable things. Of course, it's Scientology. And they won a case to gain the status of religion. And from there on, they were tax exempt. I honestly don't believe that religions should be tax exempt by default. Tax exempt status is afforded to religions because the idea is it provides a good to society. If you provide some kind of good or service or something to society, then the government will subsidize you. It will pay for you to exist, basically. It'll pay you to exist, pretty much. That's what tax-exempt status is. It's a government subsidy. And just by the mere fact that they are a religion, anybody, the government will subsidize you. But there are a lot of religions out there who are not good for society. Look at Jehovah's Witnesses. Look at Mormonism. Look at Scientology. They're not good for society. They are actively harmful to society. They should not have government subsidies keeping them alive. They should have to pay taxes like everybody else. I don't think religions should have tax-exempt status by default. I think it should be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. And if there is some kind of public good that they're providing, like homeless shelters or food banks or something, and those things aren't behind some kind of requirement, like you have to come to church every Sunday with us, and if you come to church, then you can receive our services. If it's not behind something like that, then they should be given tax-exempt status. They should be subsidized by the government in that case. Unfortunately, it's completely ass backwards, and it has been since the beginning of time. If you're a church, you get tax-exempt status by default. I mean, John Oliver actually talked about this on his show forever ago. He created a fake church and everything and showed how easy it was to get tax-exempt status. It's disturbing. All right, so there's this news organization. I think it's called the Salt Lake Tribune. From my understanding, the Salt Lake Tribune is run by Mormonism. It's kind of a Mormon news outlet. And this article is from the Salt Lake Tribune. So in kind of an indirect way, this gives us a little bit of insight into how Mormonism is reacting to the whole, IRS tax situation. So let's read it and see what it says. The title is This Week in Mormon Land. Financial Fallout Continues, even as charity heats up at giving machines. Whether heralded in headlines, preached from the pulpit, or buzzed about on the back benches, want this free newsletter in your inbox? Subscribe here. Okay. Actually, that does sound kind of interesting. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that they said that it's buzzed about on the back benches, because I was Jehovah's Witness for like a long time. I know what those people talk about in the back of the Kingdom Hall. They are drama merchants to the truest extent. Holy hell. They're like really, really bad about drama. Like they will just gossip about everybody. Like Jehovah's Witnesses are the literal worst about gossip. So I would hope that they're not putting that kind of stuff in the newsletter, but just in case they are, maybe I should subscribe. All right, let's continue reading here. Remember, this is from a Mormon influenced outlet at the very least. So this is kind of Mormonism's like response to it a little bit, or they're putting their spin on it a little bit at least. Still following the money. Fallout continues from the revelation that the church's investment arm has a $100 billion account in reserve. The church released 3 short videos seeking to assure members and others that it is spending tithes and offerings appropriately. So there you go. They're directing people toward Mormonism's videos on the subject. I might have to actually watch those videos and debunk them and talk about them at some point. News of the fund is the latest example of a new era of whistleblowers stepping forward with concerns about how the church, its schools, or affiliate is operating. I've noticed anytime there's a whistleblower who's pulling the curtain back on something really messed up happening, they always get crucified. Like the existence of whistleblowers at all is always crucified. Like, oh, whistleblowers are evil. They're doing this. They're lying. Blah, blah, blah. We have the right to face our accusers. And they always want to know who it was, even though it's completely irrelevant. Like, why do you need to know who it was? All we need to do is verify what they're saying is factual. We don't need their names. I don't know. It's just really fascinating. You see that in the Trump impeachment situation, too. A synopsis of the complaint to the IRS about the reserve portfolio alleges that even a Latter-day Saint prophet in waiting, namely Boyd K. Packer, was denied access to details about it. Kathleen Flake, head of Mormon studies at the University of Virginia, examined on the school's website how the church manages its money along with the religious, economic, and philosophical principles that underlie its financial practices. John Turner, religion professor at George Mason University, in a piece for The Conversation, supplied to the Associated Press, looked back at financial troubles the early church encountered in Ohio and how the Utah-based faith has blended commerce and religion throughout history. So anyways, that's kind of Mormonism's take on the subject. I think they're completely full of shit, and I'm really glad to see that a whistleblower has pulled the curtain back, as I said, and revealed some information that everybody deserves to know. If anybody ever really doubted that Mormonism was corrupt, then they're crazy. I mean, Mormonism is just as corrupt high up as Jehovah's Witnesses or any other group out there. And just getting little glimpses into it like this is really fascinating.